I spent quite a while thinking about how to present the main transit occurring this weekend, October 3rd through October 5th, 2025. Venus conjunct the South Node in Virgo. It's an interesting one with multiple potentials. Venus, which relates to relationships, finances, values, self worth, art, beauty, is combining her potentials in the sign of Virgo, which loves refinement, routines, and excellence, with the South Node, with which purifies, refines, and releases. So there's a lot to talk about here, and I'm excited to get started. I think a good place to start is to put this transit on the chart. We can use the magnifier for a change. We don't often get to use that in these live reports. And I just like to put this on the chart in case it's helpful if you're studying astrology, or if it just sort of clarifies where we are in the talk. Today is pretty straightforward. I actually do just want to talk about this one transit. It is quite an interesting one. And actually, I should say it isn't a transit. When we have a conjunction in astrology, that's not, those planets aren't an aspect to each other. Um, when planets are opposing one another, when we have an opposition, a trine, a sextile, a square, it's important to look at that as these two different sort of signifiers and how they're working off of each other, how they're interacting with each other, what it's like to try to balance those two energies at the same time in some kind of way. But when we have a conjunction, it's a blending of the energies. And that's not the same as two different energies working together in different ways. When energies combine, it's sort of a whole other thing. So that's interesting to know in and of itself. And also, just to explain that I'm not going to break it down exactly the way that I usually do in terms of talking about one and then talking about the other and then putting it together, because it is more of a blend of those energies when we're talking about the conjunction. But sort of overall big picture, and then we'll break this down in terms of the different potentials and how this can show up. We're sort of letting go of, there's potential this weekend for letting go of what isn't right, what isn't working, what isn't healthy in relationships, in relationship with others, in relationship with ourselves. And it can also be true with finances, with aesthetics. So again, this does have multiple potentials, and let's get into what some of those might look like. One thing that I really love that there's the potential to get rid of is basically my least favorite side of Venus and Virgo vibes. I like Venus and Virgo in many ways. Um, but sometimes there can be a tendency to test in relationships. And so we can let go of that at this time. Letting go of a tendency to test in relationships, to test others, to question, um, there are so many things with the Venus and Virgo signature and with Virgo in general that sort of through a hyper awareness can call us away from presence. You know, when these energies are active in the sky, they're sort of more available to all of us. Um, and so we're all working with these energies right now. If they align with your chart and something that's happening in your chart, you feel them that much more potently and strongly. But this happening in the current sky signifies that it's happening for all of us. And we all have all of these tendencies, right? That's the thing with astrology. We have them in different ways and in different um, amounts and at different times, and there are multiple potentials for everything, but also we all work with all of these energies. And one energy that we all work up with that we can sort of let go of a little bit around this time, around this weekend, is the I hope that wasn't not in focus that whole time. I hope that's okay now. Um, is the stuff in Virgo that calls us away from being present. Whether that is, being hyper vigilant about um, perfecting self and others, um, any sort of tendency to test or yeah, there can be something about Virgo wanting this energy, there's something about wanting to do something well so much that it calls you out of the ability to be present. And when we're present with what we're doing, that's when we are really able to serve and have those highest relationships, which is really what Virgo wants. So releasing, perfecting self and others, which is a Virgo tendency that can take our energy out of the moment and away from presence. And I think that we're all realizing this weekend, and just in general, more and more with the South Node in Virgo, that there's a greater potential. And that when we do sort of release that tendency to want to perfect self and others, that it does call us into greater presence. And from that place, things do become more perfect because we're really there. Another potential that could show up around this transit is just old relationships or relationship themes that could surface. So they could surface in your mind, they could surface in your life. It could be either, could be both. But anything about relationships from the past, the relationships themselves, perhaps, or just things about relationships sort of being on your mind or being in your experience related to aspects from the past. This is also a great weekend for, perhaps through these processes I was just describing, refining our approach to love or finances in some way, because we're really able to see what isn't working. That makes it in and of itself easier to let it go. And this energy in and of itself is about seeing what's working and letting it go. So it's a great weekend for using that energy to refine our approach in some kind of way. And Venus rules relationships and finances. So looking really critically at what isn't working in order to refine it, let it go, make it a little bit better. It could relate to the recent eclipse story in some way. I think that this is a timing issue that's worth mentioning. We're still in eclipse season here. We're getting there. Next week, early next week, we have our Aries full moon, which officially ends eclipse season. So the fact that we're at the tail end of this, and this is an aspect that is relating to the nodes, which is about the eclipses, tells me that it could be a part of the eclipse story. So you might want to think back 2 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, that whole period. What are you seeing now about relationships, about finances, about aesthetics, about yourself, about others? Maybe about perfectionism, maybe about presence. What kind of things were learned over the course of those 6 weeks? And is there some way in which that learning now is at a point where there can be that a little bit of release? And you can go, okay, I've learned from this and I've learned from that, and here's what works and here's what doesn't, and sort of be intentional about letting go of something that doesn't serve you in order to make things better as a result of these last 6 weeks and all of the busyness. And I think it was busy for a lot of people this eclipse season. It's certainly been active in the collective, and generally that alone has an effect on our individual lives. Um, but yeah, it was an interesting eclipse season. The nodes are firmly in Virgo and Pisces right now, right in the middle. So we're sort of right in the center of that 18-month eclipse cycle, and I think that gives a certain potency to it as well. Okay, few more potentials to think about here with this South Node Virgo conjunction. As I said in the title, purifying relationships, refining relationships, uh, yeah, releasing self-criticism, criticism of others, reevaluating things about relationships. And I guess I'm just thinking about, again, that urge uh, to understand every detail can remove us from self-compassion, from compassion for others. And it can also, it's not just about not being present, it's about everything that comes with presence being lost. Um, real connection isn't as possible. Joy isn't as possible. Compassion for self and others. So it's about all of the energies that go with that as well. So, yeah, really understanding the importance of joy and connection and compassion, and realizing that letting go a little, not having to understand all the details, not having to work everything out, not having to be perfect, not needing others to be perfect, can really support that. Um, Also, this on a very practical level could be reordering, cleaning out resources, aesthetics in some kind of way. It's a great weekend for cleaning, for organizing your physical space. Also, just for sort of reworking or refining or reordering in some kind of way. Um, Perhaps moving things around or restructuring them in terms of finances or in terms of some organizational system, and just cleaning things out and making them better, letting go of what's not working. Sort of similarly, we can let go of unhealthy health habits a little bit more easily this weekend than usual. There's this increased focus on health right now with this Virgo Pisces axis so activated, mental health and physical health, and on healing. So, with that increased focus, and then the emphasis on the South Node, now is a time where it's a little bit easier to put down something that isn't working well in order to have better health uh, or healing in some kind of way, physically and mentally, when we're talking about Virgo and Pisces. Um, I think that is about all I have in terms of this transit. I want to go ahead and check the comments now, and I will. Hello. Hi, hello, Namira. Hello. Nice to see you. And Deetra, how nice. You have Venus in Virgo. And I love Venus in Virgo in so many ways. It's so um it's so service oriented. It really, at the highest potential of Virgo, is serving from this very, very pure place. Not serving in a weird way. Serving is a weird word, isn't it? Helping, expanding, connecting. And I feel that Venus in Virgo now knows how to do that from a very practical standpoint. Also incredibly loyal, very loyal and committed. But yeah, sometimes there can be a tendency to test in relationships, which is something a little bit to watch out for. I see some questions about astrology. You can also check my horoscopes for September and October. For more information about everything that's happening now, I would recommend watching by your rising sign if you know your rising sign. Oh my gosh, Lynn, I think it's a great day for yoga. I completely agree. Yes, beautiful. Sun in Virgo, nice. And Venus in Scorpio. Let's see, what can I say about these? Well, Sun in Virgo, I think can sometimes be misunderstood as it's funny how the signs can sort of be misunderstood in certain ways. Like Venus and Virgo can really seem like they have it all together because you're so capable, but I'm sorry, Sun and Virgo, I mean, um, can really seem like you have it all together because you're so capable, and you are so capable. You can do so many things well, and you can manage a lot, and you can take care of things. But people don't know how hard you can be on yourself in order to do that. And it really is such a level up for Virgo energies when you can sort of let go of that a little bit, enough to connect from that pure place more readily. And that tends to happen sort of over the course of the life. And then I see Venus and Scorpio. Venus and Scorpio, I really like. You know, it's funny. It's supposed to be quite a jealous or possessive Venus signature, and I've literally never seen that. I know several people with Venus and Scorpio well, and have read for many people with it, and that's supposed to be one of those signifiers, and I just don't see it. It's something else. It's wanting those really deep connections. Talk about committed. Once you're committed, very committed. Um, really wanting a very, very deep and real connection. And I can understand that jealousy signature, but it just doesn't show up for everybody as much as they emphasize it, I think, sometimes in uh, astrology, from what I've seen from my studies. Oh, it's really nice to see everyone. And Sun in Sag is a beautiful signature. Optimistic, optimistic. Just remember that more of a good thing isn't always better. Sag can overdo it for sure. So I really enjoyed this report. I enjoyed seeing you all here. I will be back again to talk about the full moon in Aries. Generally, I'm here Mondays and Friday mornings. I might do it a little bit different. I might come on Sunday night or later in the day on Monday, or at my regular time on Monday. So just be aware that Monday report might be a little bit different. I might structure things a little bit differently next week. Thank you for your patience with the October horoscopes. They are all up now. And have a wonderful weekend refining relationships. Thank you for being here.